Guys, welcome to Box, the football talk show powered by Sportology TV. I'm Uni, that's Ali Drew. Unfortunately, you can see my surroundings. It's a very unconventional surrounding, but 2020 showed us that you can even interview someone on the toilet. So why not? I'm in the car. I'm just traveling somewhere. But Ali, we've got another important guest today. I'd leave you to do the recap and introduction.
Yes, so on the last episode, we were joined by Wales international Joe Ledley, who was talking about his former clubs and also the hopes of him returning to Australia to continue to play over there. Obviously, with the lockdowns, it's been a bit of a nightmare in the last year, but good luck to him. But on this week's episode, we are joined by a presenter who you will see on Sky Sports, and he's also a presenter on YouTube channel Football Daily. We are delighted to be joined by Joe Thomlinson. Joe, welcome to the show. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Love the commitment from Rooney, as we said.
Some good work.
I'm also liking the top that you're wearing. That's a good top. That see, I knew it.
Had to represent.
So, man, how's life treating you at the moment? I know you're a busy man. I see you on YouTube quite a bit. You're doing your Saturday show as well with Sky, and then you've got your
it's going well.
Stuff. Yeah,
it's going well. Just need Manchester United just to refine a bit of that form we had about 8 weeks ago, because I'm slightly concerned the diff is just beginning.
No, but that's the thing, being a United fan, they build your hopes up and then they really crash them down.
Then
you go through the circle of sort of building the hope up, but you really get excited at that point and then they crash you back down. So it's happened about 4 times this season, but it's life. So Joe, just tell us latest with yourself. I know you're busy in regards to presenting, but how did you get into all of this?
Well, I started out on YouTube with Football Daily. Obviously, Football Daily, when I first started, there was quite a small operation and we built out to multiple platforms and stuff now. When I first went there, it was I was writing for a website. We're making a couple of videos a week at sort of 50,000 subscribers, something like that, maybe 100,000 subscribers, mostly like top 10s and stuff like that. And now we're at a pretty good scale where we've got 2 YouTube channels, Snapchat show, pretty big Instagram following, pretty big Twitter and Facebook followings as well. So that's kind of how I got started in terms of getting in with Football Daily. And then the more shows we create on Football Daily, the more people we needed on screen effectively. So I kind of naturally just started talking on screen. I never really had any ambitions to be a presenter. In fact, when I was at uni, I was kind of more keen to do the behind the scenes production side of it. But we needed someone to do it. So I filled in and then never looked back really. And it's gone from strength to strength really at Football Daily. And then Sky purchased the whole of Football Daily. And I incorporated it within Sky Sports, and that opened more doors within the Sky Sports community, and they've been really, really generous and given me lots of opportunities there. To be fair, it's been fantastic.
I do have to ask, obviously, as we've established, you are a Man United fan, but when you're on Sky Sports, you do obviously have to cover all the teams, all the clubs.
Yeah.
And you almost have to be a little bit neutral. Do you find it hard to... If, say, Man United aren't involved at all, but obviously you've got certain clubs that you dislike more than others. Do you find that difficult?
Not massively, to be fair. Not massively, because I'm not a really partisan fan that's stood on the terraces shouting abuse at other fans and stuff. So I'm not that sort of bloke inherently. So I don't find it too difficult not to sort of disrespect other teams. But I actually think that there is a sort of movement within, I'd say, football journalism. Not that I'm a journalist, football media, towards slightly more, not necessarily the most partisan fans, but presenters and producers and talent on screen having a slight opinion towards one team. I think it's part of the success of Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher, for instance, that Gary is a Man United fan, Jamie's a Liverpool fan, and it creates an interesting dynamic on screen. So I think the days of people being totally neutral perhaps gone a little bit, and people enjoy the entertainment, being able to laugh at people and agree with them at the same time.
Joe, before we talk about United and the sort of up and down season that they're having at the moment, I do want to talk about something very serious at this present time. Obviously, you've been on social media and you're very involved, and that's how you've sort of made your name is through media. At this present time, it seems like social media has been a deterrent on football players, especially. We've seen Anthony Martial, Axel Tuanzebe, Wilfred Zaha, a lot of black players getting racially abused online and on social media. What do you want to say about that in this day and age that we're living in, that people are still throwing out abuse racially and they've got this platform to do it on now?
Oh, it's absolutely disgusting, isn't it? It's so shocking to see it every single week. And look, social media companies have got to take more responsibility. They've got to do more than they're currently doing. The current punishment system is not enough. They're not doing anywhere near enough. There has to be, I think, like Gary Neville was talking on the other day on Sky Sports, saying there has to be some form of an identification system when you sign up. And I understand that it is a problem for some people because some people don't want to give passport details to a Facebook or a Twitter or an Instagram, and that's fair enough. And also some people simply don't have a form of identification, and maybe they can't get hold of one. So to combat that, they need to come up with some form of, I don't know, modern identification system to sign up to social media. And I'm not smart enough to figure out how that's done, but surely the people that are employed by Facebook and Google and Twitter, some of the smartest people in the world, are smart enough to be able to come up with an identification system and put in a punishment system that is better than we've got current now, because it's an absolute disgrace what we're seeing at the moment.
Yeah, I think that it's other platforms, not social media, but the government platforms and things that you need, signing up to your doctor, you need ID and stuff to do that type of thing. So really, it should be just as straightforward, you would think. But we're going to have to move on to talking about United's season so far. So as we have said, up and down, it's been some good points, some bad points. As a whole, have you been happy as a Man United fan with their season, or do you think definitely better, could have been better?
What's the date today? 16th of February. So I'll say this on the 16th of February. At the moment, I'm very happy with how the season's going. I think I'm trying to be less of the immediate reactionary fan that we see nowadays, where one week United are incredible and the next best thing behind Man City, and the next week they're absolute rubbish. So I'm trying not to be extremely reactionary. And I think if you put it across the course of the entire season, every Manchester United fan, if you just said by the 16th of February, you'd be second in the league, you'd not Liverpool out the cup, maybe disappointment in the Champions League. In fact, very disappointing in the manner of which we exited. But a lot of Manchester United fans would probably have taken that. I don't think any Manchester United fan, if they're being honest with themselves, thought we were going to go that deep in the Champions League. Maybe quarter-final run. I think even the most optimistic Man United fan would have said quarterfinals. To say semi-finals and finals was never going to happen. So disappointing to go out as early as we did in Champions League. But I think the league campaign, if you actually put it into full season context, to be second in the table, I think there's been clear progression in how we've tried to play football this year. Without a huge amount of investment in the summer. Yes, we've got Donny van de Beek in. He's kind of played second fiddle. Edinson Cavani's been a bit of a revelation as well. I think that it's been a positive season overall, but in short-term spells, it's been little bits of negativity, like the Champions League, like the kind of 4-week dip we're seeing now, that need to be eradicated.
I agree with that. I think as a season so far, I think we have progressed. I think under Ole, we've progressed in general. I think the other managers that we had, David Moyes, Van Gaal, Mourinho, there wasn't much progression. I know with Mourinho, United finished second. But he never got back, and that story is all over. But I want to just sort of pinpoint a couple of players, and especially players that are going to be making noise in the summer. For example, the main player, Paul Pogba. It seems like this summer is a summer that he's going to be moving on. What do you make of that? Because personally, myself, I think Paul Pogba, he's going to be a big miss to the team. Might be hard replacing him, especially the season that he's having. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, it's going to be a huge miss for Man United. I think you've seen the last 2 to 3 weeks his impact when he's not been available. That thigh injury, it's really starting to hurt Manchester United. I think it's probably a different outcome against West Brom, for instance, if Paul Pogba's in that team. I don't think he would have played Scott and Fred as the deep line midfielders if Paul Pogba was available. Yeah, I agree. I think Paul's probably going to leave this summer. I think now's the time for him. And I wish him the best, to be honest with you. I think he's a fantastic player. Hasn't quite worked out at Manchester United. I'm sure he's going to go to Real Madrid or PSG, win bucket loads of trophies and come out as a sensational midfielder, because he is technically unbelievable. What I think United will do, I don't think they'll try and sign a replacement for Paul Pogba. That's for sure. I think what United will do is look at the balance within the squad and say, even with Paul Pogba, I think when he's in the team, it's slightly unbalanced. Whether he's playing deep line midfield, I don't think we've got the defensive midfielder to partner him, or whether he's playing kind of out wide, which we've seen at time this season. I don't think he's quite right out there. So I don't think the balance is perfect when he's in the team, but we're definitely better with him. So I think what United will look to do is take a bit of cash, 50, 60 million, whatever we end up getting for Pogba, given he's only got 1 year left on his contract, and reinvest that in either a right winger or a out and out defensive midfielder that can just sit in there as a lone man, or obviously the centre back problem, and kind of readdress that. I don't think we'll sign a direct Pogba replacement because we've already got Donny van de Beek in the squad.
Yeah, so obviously at the moment United are having a little bit of not a great spell, and they did have the 9-0 victory a few weeks ago, but since then it's not been great. What would you say is the main cause of that? Is it, as you say, the defence that's just an issue, or is there other players who are sort of not up to scratch as well?
Yeah, the defence is the key issue here. I think it's fairly obvious for everybody to see that United are going to probably try to sign a centre back in the summer, somebody to partner Harry Maguire, probably because of the outlay they put on him, to be honest with you. But yeah, I do think Paul Pogba's been a big miss. I also think Eric Bailly getting injured, the timing was just horrible for Manchester United. He was becoming such a vital central defender for United, then picks up an injury, then picks up another injury in training. Now he's just fit enough to make the bench. So I think as soon as he's back fit, United will start to refine a bit of form. But also at the top end of the pitch, there just seems to be a little bit of miscommunication. I'm not sure the balance is quite right. Anthony Martial experiencing something of a dud season, really. And when he plays on the left, it means Rashford gets pushed out wide right. And I think that causes a bit of problem. I would just keep Rashford on that left, let Martial sit on the bench, Mason on the right, Cavani through the middle. I think just settle it back down, get Eric Bailly back in, and United will be fine. But there are a few problems just starting to develop that Ollie needs to get hold of.
Joe, what would you make of the goalkeeping situation? Would you, we know Ollie's sort of stuck with De Gea. De Gea's made a couple of mistakes, especially in that Everton game, which was hard to take as a Man United fan. Yeah. But we've got a great keeper in the, who's waiting on the bench, who's come in and performed at times in Dean Henderson. Do you feel like it's time to maybe drop De Gea, or do you feel like you need to stick with him?
I wouldn't drop him personally. I think that the issues are in front of De Gea. He has made a couple of mistakes, but Dean Henderson made mistakes when he came in. Let's not forget the Sheffield United fiasco as well. I think that he'll stick with Dean Henderson. I think Dean Henderson will play next season an awful lot more than he's playing now. He's going to play the cup games, and if De Gea was to get injured, he'll play the Premier League games. But I think Ollie is quite loyal to his players, and I think De Gea is probably a very senior figure in that dressing room. So to drop him, I think, would be slightly risky in Ollie's mind, given how poor the defence has been. And let's face it, against West Brom, De Gea was bailing us out at times. A couple of fantastic saves, particularly that one off Diagne. So I think Ollie will stick with what he knows this season, keep De Gea in sticks, and then next season look to readdress it with Dean Henderson.
Talking of Ollie, what do you make of him as a manager? Do you like him? And obviously now it's sort of settled down a bit. There isn't people calling for him to get sacked at the moment, although it happens very quickly. A few months ago, that was all that was being talked about. Ollie in, Ollie out. Everyone was, they were down in 14. It wasn't great. But what do you make of him as a manager? And obviously being a sort of lifelong United fan, he's a legend of Man United.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's doing a pretty solid job. He's doing the best job I've seen a manager do post-Ferguson. I think it's got the Manchester United with the most clear style and identity, that's for sure. And I think what he has done really well is off the pitch squad building and squad morale. Under Jose, under Louis van Gaal, under Moyes, there's been huge issues running through the core of the squad with the way some players approach being a Manchester United player and their attitude both on and off the pitch. I think Solskjaer, to an extent, and to a large extent, has arrested those problems really well. This feels like the most cohesive squad Man United have had in quite some time. Yeah, it's got a couple of holes, and I'm sure he wanted the investment of Haaland. He wanted Sancho, didn't he? And I'm sure those would have gone a long way to fixing those problems. I think he's getting better tactically. Not the best manager in the league, by a long way tactically. But we've seen him pull out some fantastic results against big managers. He's beaten nearly every single one of the big boys now. Where I think he probably struggles is putting together a tactical blueprint in an attacking sense to beat some of the smaller to more middling teams when they're sitting a bit deeper. And he can't just rely on the pace on the counter. He's got Bruno in to do that, and Bruno obviously does that week in, week out. But I think maybe he needs one more creative asset to help him do that, that plays from that right-hand side and can help him create. What you see a lot of the top teams do is the fullbacks start to create. He's managed to get that output out of Luke Shaw this season. Hasn't quite got that output out of Aaron Wan-Bissaka. And when you don't have a right flank effectively at United, which we don't, because Mason comes inside, Aaron Wan-Bissaka is not an attacking right back, it makes the pitch quite narrow. So I think he'll look to address that with a right winger in the summer, somebody who can create from that flank. But I think overall he's doing a very, very good job. And he will probably get back pretty heavily this summer. I'm hoping that some of that NFL Super Bowl Tampa Bay Buccaneers money comes back into Manchester United.
Joe, you've actually forgot we've signed the next Messi already. He already plays for United in the under-23s.
Oh, yeah.
Amad Diallo.
Yeah.
But look, this Joe, you're the manager of Man United in the summer. I come to you with £300 million cash.
Oh my God!
Who would you sign? Who would you sign this summer? Who do United need?
Well, firstly, a centre back. And we need a centre back badly.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll get two. I think we'll get one for sure. I don't know who that is though. I think the centre back market is pretty limited. I would have a go at Varane, to be honest with you. I think Madrid are in a pretty sticky situation at the moment financially. They know that the club has been hit heavy by COVID. He's got 1 year left at the end of this season on his contract. So they're going to be in the situation of, do we renew Rafa Varane at an improved deal, or do we let him go for free the following summer? They can't physically allow a €70 million asset to leave for free. No way. So they're going to have to agree to renew his contract this summer. So there might be opportunity there, something to be done there. Sergio Ramos is a no-go. He's going to sign a new deal. Let's not even pretend. We've had our hands burnt by that pie in the past.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I would maybe have a nibble at Varane. I know that Koundé and Konate are certainly like Manchester United targets, or at least that's what the media is saying. Honestly, I haven't watched enough of them to give an opinion as to whether they'd be right. I know that Koundé is 5'10", does worry me as a centre-back in the Premier League, coming out of La Liga. So I would be slightly concerned about that one. Nevertheless, let's say 80 million on a centre-back for sure. Whoever it is going to be has to be done. I think we still need Jadon Sancho. I would still go for Jadon Sancho. I would expect Borussia Dortmund. I would expect Borussia Dortmund to sell at a cut price. Now COVID's hit. He's a season later on his contract. Probably get him for closer to what we were bidding, that sort of 90 to 100 million this season, which would be a good bit of business, I think, and would solve massive issues on that right flank with creativity, which is just such a problem for United. So I would probably go Jadon Sancho, and then I would look to use the rest on a really elite defensive midfielder, I think. What my issue with Fred and Scott McTominay is, I think they're both really good players. And I actually think Scott, we're finally realising now he's not a defensive midfielder. He's a proper box-to-box midfielder. If anything, he's a bit better going forward, I think, than defensively. And people were talking about him at the start of the season as, could he play centre-back? What a ridiculous idea that looks now, that he's scoring so many goals. But I think what a really elite defensive midfielder brings to the club is the ability, when you're playing West Brom away, to not having to play two in there. And you can just play one defensive midfielder and allow either Scott to get 30 yards higher up the pitch, or Donny van de Beek to play alongside Bruno in a more advanced role with one really elite defensive midfielder in there. So that would be my go-to, whether that is a Camavinga, whether that is a Wilfred Ndidi. I'd be slightly worried about Ndidi's injury record. Somebody like that who is going to do the job of Scott and Fred by themselves against the smaller teams is key. And then the season after, I would look to address the striker role. And if that is Erling Haaland on that €66 million buyout clause, let's have a nibble. But I think he's going to end up at Bayern or something, isn't he?
Yeah, exciting me there, Joe. Just by saying his name, that's quite exciting. Yeah. But yeah, hopefully, United can actually sign Cavani up for another season, because he has been great this season.
Has to be done. Well, I think we all know now Martial and Rashford aren't strikers.
No. I think one thing that United fans have sort of missed is we've had Rashford and Martial as strikers for a long time. And then when you get a real striker that comes in, you realise what we sort of missed on it. It's crazy. But just away from Man United, I want to talk about probably the most controversial topic of the season that's been ongoing from day dot to now is VAR. Every week we seem to have a decision. We seem to have some rule that needs to be changed because the week before something went wrong. What do you make of all this whole VAR situation?
Look, at the start of the season, I was so pro VAR. I was like, look, it's the right thing. People have been moaning for 10 years about getting some form of decision-making system in place. It's got to happen. Is this the second season now, I believe, we've had VAR? I think it is, isn't it? Is it the second?
It might be, actually. I don't know. Actually.
Or maybe third.
I think...
You know what it is?
I think it's
because 2020 was such a year that everyone sort of forgot what happened with it. I've totally forgotten, mate.
I think it's the second.
Technically, it is. Yeah, it is the second.
Either way, I think now I'm like 2 seasons in. I'm like, did it? I can't. It's so annoying to watch. I honestly think the decision rate is about 5% better. It's not so much better that it's worth it, because the decisions are still being made incorrectly after 4 minutes of watching slow-mo replays. If that's the case, then you've just got to accept that the current standard of refereeing in Britain isn't good enough, and that VAR isn't improving it to an extent enough to ruin the entertainment like this. So I'm now firmly in the case of did it.
But what do you think the solution is? Get better refereeing qualifications, like improve the training? What do you think the solution is?
The solution to VAR is to scrap it. The solution to the refereeing problem, which I think is pretty widespread at the moment in the Premier League. I don't know, but I can't remember the last time I saw this many poor, high-profile decisions every single week, and it feels like it's almost every game now we're seeing a decision that everybody's going, how does that make sense? Like 95% of the population seems to agree the Souček red card isn't a red card, but the 2 referees have had 30 seconds of discussion and decided after watching multiple slow-mo replays they believe it is. So how has that decision happened? Like, I would love to hear the communication. That would be amazing, wouldn't it? Like they do in rugby, like they do in cricket, where you can hear the communication between the referees or between the umpires. That would be amazing, but I just don't think they'll ever do it, because they'll be a bit worried about the other things we're getting picked up on microphones, I think.
Yeah, no, I think they need to get in, like some footballers involved, some ex-footballers involved in the whole decision making, because it seems that people are sat there who just seem to be going off. First of all, it seems to be the laws that seem to just be incorrect. The laws are changing and the wording of the laws, and it's just confusing for everyone. So I think whilst the referees do get the sort of backlash, I do also think the lawmakers and whoever deals with that sort of side of stuff fingers need to be pointed at them for sure. But a question for you, Joe, then. This season, which player has impressed you the most in the season so far from any team?
In the Premier League, I think there's been a few. Obviously, Manchester City players are easy to pick up, aren't they? Ilkay Gundogan, for sure. Don't expect him to be able to produce this goal output that he's currently producing, especially playing that almost false 9 position under Pep Guardiola. It's been incredible, really. Man City are just picking up pace at a fantastic time. I'd be extremely worried about them if I was facing them in the Champions League this season. So yeah, Ilkay Gundogan, Ruben Dias, so I think has been a revelation for Manchester City this season, probably the outstanding centre-back in the league. His partnership has totally reinvigorated John Stones as well, who seems to have come out from the cold to be one of the most important centre-backs in the Premier League. That's probably, alongside the Atletico Madrid centre-back pairing, the outstanding centre-back pairing in Europe right now, which is incredible given John Stones was a substitute last year. Again, João Cancelo, second season, really found his feet. Looks like an incredible asset for Manchester City when he drives into that midfield. So good going forward, so fit, leader of the press. So Man City have got a lot of names, haven't they? Thomas Souček at West Ham keeps impressing.
Impressive.
Yeah, David Moyes is doing a fantastic job and probably my manager of the season so far, to be honest with you, given the adversity he's been up against at times. At Leicester, there's also a bunch of names there, aren't there? Really impressed by the pickup of Wesley Fofana. He's been so good for such a young player. Arriving as a centre-back in the Premier League, it's never easy. It's a shame he's picked up a couple injuries now, but he was really impressive when he got going. And also Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I feel like he's become a bit of a forgotten man this season, just because he's had a couple injuries. Everton had not a massive slump, but just like a bit of a bumpy road over the last kind of 4 weeks. But he's outscoring a Jamie Vardy. He's outscoring a lot of players. I think he's got something like 17 goals in all competitions this season, which is incredible for a player as young as him. And he's probably a shoe-on to go to the Euros of England now in that striking position as a second fiddle to Harry Kane. So I'd say those sort of names. There's obviously loads you can mention, but I don't want to ramble on for too long.
So would you say, based on, you named a lot of Man City players, would you say for the title race, do you think that Man City have it wrapped up now? They're probably not going to lose it.
For sure. Man City had it wrapped up 2 weeks ago. Man City are going to run away with it. They really are going to run away with it. 16 wins on the bounce now. And I just don't see who stops them. I think that the quality within the rest of the league is taking a little bit of a hit at the moment. And Manchester City are kind of just rattling everyone. Man City could rest 5 players, I think, and win pretty much every single week. That's how strong that squad is. And I think they're genuine contenders for a treble this season. They're genuine treble contenders this season. Obviously, I think they've got Everton in the Cup. They've got Mönchengladbach in the Champions League. I mean, they should be dispatching of Mönchengladbach easily, even though Marco Rose is a fantastic manager. I think that Pep, just as long as he stops fiddling with his Champions League sides and lets them play, stands a very good chance of winning this year's competition. Real Madrid have fallen off. Barcelona have fallen off. PSG are in a bit of a transition period under Pochettino. Liverpool don't look that special. I mean, Bayern Munich, they're not as good as they were last year. Still an imperious side, but not as good as they were last year. So I think Man City and Atletico Madrid, for me, would probably be the 2 favourites to win the competition. So Pep stands a great chance of winning the treble. He really does. I think the Premier League could be wrapped up by... The Premier League could be wrapped up by like mid-March for him, and he could be resting players up for the Champions League, which not many other leagues can do. Bayern Munich are in the midst of a title race. Juventus certainly are. I think Juventus are 8 points off Inter Milan now. PSG are in the title race. Barca and Real are battling to even be in the top 3 in Spain. So this is an unreal situation for Pep to be in, and I'm sure 9 weeks ago, he was not thinking he'd be here, such as the season swung.
Well, before we finish, we always ask our former players and also our football media guests, who you think the greatest player that you've ever seen play live is.
Lionel Messi.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw Lionel Messi play at the Nou Camp in the Champions League against Man City under Pep, and he scored a hat-trick. And it's not really, it's undescribable. I don't know whether you guys have ever watched Messi. Have you ever seen Messi live?
I've watched Messi live, a few times.
He doesn't really, it's really bizarre. I found it really bizarre watching him because he's not a classic, what you would think of as like, when you see him off the ball, you're like, what is this guy offering? Like he's just genuinely just walking around, hugging the touchline, finding a bit of space. But when he gets on the ball, I've never seen anything like it. It's just like he could, if he wanted to, just go past every single player. But off the ball, it's like comical. It's just walking about, no interest in tracking back, no interest in doing anything. But yeah, comfortably Lionel Messi for me, comfortably.
Good, that's good. Cool. Well, Joe, thank you so much for your time. It's been great chatting to you. And fingers crossed for United to maybe start getting another good run of form.
Yeah. Bring back by.
And hopefully your prediction of City winning the treble doesn't happen. That's coming from a very biased Man United fan. But yeah, Joe, it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time. We know you're a busy man, but hopefully we get to speak to you soon. Take care, top man.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Great to be joined there by Joe Thomlinson and hearing all about his views on his beloved Man United. But stay tuned, we have part 2 coming up where we are joined by Jay Knox.